Hi everyone, so today we're going to work on adding and subtracting polynomials. So a couple of things to remember when you are adding polynomials. When you add polynomials, it essentially is the same as combining like terms. Okay, and this is something we've talked about before, but I just want to give us a little refresher. So in order to combine like terms, we have to know, well, what are like terms? Like terms have the same variables raised to the same exponents. So really, only the coefficients or those big numbers in front are different. Okay, and when we combine like terms, we're going to add or subtract those coefficients that potentially are different sitting in front. If they're positive, we're going to use positive numbers, negative, we're going to use negative numbers. So let's look at the first example. So I have negative 5x squared minus 4x minus 1 plus negative 4x squared minus 4x. Right, now really, we could say that there's a 1 sitting outside of that parenthesis, and we could distribute that 1 through, but 1 times anything is just itself. So it's not going to change anything in the parentheses, so we actually can take those parentheses off, okay, because the one that we would distribute in is not going to change the numbers or the signs. Okay, so I have one long polynomial. So I notice negative 5x squared and negative 4x squared have the same x raised to the same exponent of 2. So when I combine them, I just combine the numbers in front. So negative 5 and negative 4 is negative 9. I keep the variable and the exponent the same. I don't add the exponents because if you remember from last week, we only add the exponents when we're multiplying, and we're not multiplying in this situation. So then I look, I have a negative 4x and a negative 4x. They're both negative, so negative 4 and negative 4 is negative 8, keep the x. And then I have nothing to go with this negative 1, so I'm just going to bring it down. All right, and my final answer is negative 9x squared minus 8x minus 1. The reason I can't put the 9x squared and the negative 8x together is because this one has an exponent of 2 and the negative 8x has an exponent of 1. Okay, so I have negative 9x squared minus 8x minus 1. Negative 9x squared minus 8x minus 1. Okay, submit answer. Good. Do a new problem. So this one, you're subtracting. So when we're subtracting polynomials, our steps are just slightly different because that negative in between is actually going to change the signs of the terms inside that second parenthesis. So subtract polynomials. The first thing you are going to do is distribute the negative out front of the second parenthesis. Okay, because unlike the plus sign we had in the last problem, that negative sign is going to change the signs, which will change the sign of each term in that second parenthesis only. All right, once we take care of that, then just like the previous problem, you're going to combine like terms. Okay, so let's look what we have here. Let me see if I can extend. Oh, there we go. So I have x squared minus 8x minus 6 minus x squared minus 2x. So the first step is I have to distribute, if it helps make that a negative 1, to both terms. So I'm going to have x squared minus 8x minus 6. Then this is going to be a negative 1x squared plus 2x because it changes the sign of both of the terms inside that parenthesis. So now I'm going to combine like terms. So I look at my x squared. I have a negative 1x squared. So really this is a positive one. So a positive 1 minus 1 goes to 0. So these actually cancel out. So I'm not going to have an x squared term in my final answer. Then I have a negative 8x and a positive 2x, which combines to be negative 6x. Again, nothing to go with my constant, so just minus 6. So I have negative 6x minus 6 as my final answer. Okay, let's try another one. So this one I'm adding. So when I'm adding, okay, just a reminder, I combine my like terms, so my parentheses really are just decoration because if I distribute a positive 1 through, it's not going to change anything. Okay, so I'm going to take those parentheses off because this plus sign isn't going to change anything in my second parenthesis. So I'm going to have negative 10x squared minus 1 minus 8x squared plus 8x minus 8. Right? Notice I always look for the highest exponents first. That's what's going to keep my polynomial in standard form. So a negative 10x and a negative 8x. So you always want to take the sign sitting in front of that number. So negative 10 and negative 8 is negative 18x squared. Then there's nothing to go with my x term, so I'm just going to bring down plus 8x. And then this time I do have two constants that I can combine, a negative 1 and a negative 8. Notice I include the negatives that sat in front of them is negative 9. So I have negative 18x squared plus 8x minus 9. So negative 18x squared plus 8x minus 9. Okay, let's try another one. So here it says find the sum. So this one's a little bit trickier because it didn't explicitly put the operation in between. It used the word sum. So just as a reminder, the word sum means addition. So this is just a fancy way of saying add the two polynomials. Okay, so I want to do 6x squared plus 10x minus 1. We're taking that polynomial and adding it to negative 5x squared minus 2x plus 1. Because if I distribute a positive 1 through, it's not going to change anything. I can take my parentheses off. They're kind of just like decorations. I combine 6x squared minus 5x squared. 6 and a negative 5 is a positive 1x squared. 10x and a negative 2x. 10 and negative 2 is positive 8x. And a negative 1 and a positive 1, when I combine them, goes to 0. Okay, so I don't need to write the 0, so I can just write my final answer as 1x squared plus 8x. Do you have to write the 1 in front of the x squared? No. Okay, that's an option that you have. So 1x squared. Then what was it? Plus 8x. Okay, let's try another one. Right, so this is very similar to the last one. So order matters with subtraction. So that's important. Oh, let me bring my Delta Math back up. So we're going to have to subtract what you're subtracting from. It's bigger. Okay, so it says subtract negative 2x squared plus 3x from 8x squared plus 10x minus 10. In order to subtract negative 2x squared plus 3x minus 9 from that second polynomial, that has to come first. So this makes a difference. 8x squared plus 10x minus 10. I need to subtract negative 2x squared plus 3x minus 9. So when you have this type of problem, you kind of flip the order of the polynomials. Okay, so whatever you're subtracting from needs to come first. So we're subtracting from 8x squared plus 10x minus 10, so that needs to come first. I need to distribute the negative because it's a subtraction sign, and that negative will change all of the signs in that second parenthesis. I'm just going to bring down my first parenthesis. Once I've distributed, I can combine like terms. 8x squared plus 2x squared is 10x squared. 10x and negative 3x is 7x. Negative 10 and a positive 9 is negative 1. Okay, so my final answer is 10x squared plus 7x minus 1. 10x squared. What did I say? 10x squared plus 7x minus 1. All right, let's just do one more. Okay, this is another subtraction one. Good. If any, usually students are very good with addition. It's subtraction that's a little bit tricky because you just have to remember to distribute that negative sign. So negative 9x squared minus 2x minus negative 9x squared minus 3x. So distribute that negative, and all it does is change the sign. All right, so now it's going to be a plus 9x squared and a plus 3x that we're going to combine with negative 9x squared minus 2x. So the first parenthesis never changes, right? It's always that second one, depending on if you're adding or subtracting. So when I combine like terms, negative 9x squared plus 9x squared goes to 0. So they cancel, and negative 2x plus 3x is a positive 1x. So I'm just going to use 1x as my answer. As I said, you don't have to write the 1 if you do not want to. Okay. I just want to talk about that from, if I can find another one. Oh, I just wanted that one that we just saw. So subtract negative 6x squared minus 2x plus 5 from 2x squared plus 8. Okay, so I just want to do, this will be the last one I do, but the subtract from, because the order of the polynomials change, is important. So in order to subtract, even though it's a larger polynomial because it has more terms, okay, 2x squared plus 8x, and we want to subtract negative 6x squared minus 2x plus 5 from that. So it has nothing to do with the size of the polynomials. It's more where that word from it. So I distribute my negative, which is going to change all of my signs. Positive 6x squared, positive 2x, negative 5. Now I can combine like terms, 8x squared. I don't have anything to go with my positive 2x, and then 8 minus 5, where 8 and a negative 5 is a positive 3. So 8x squared plus 2x plus 3. 8x squared plus 2x plus 3. Okay, so if you have any questions when you're working on this, just let me know. I hope you have a great day. See ya.